So I'll just do a quick housekeeping. So this is being recorded at this point. You just heard the announcement. And then if you guys have any questions, you can feel free and put them in the Q&A so that we can follow along there. And of course, any conversations with yourselves or with us, you're welcome to use the chat. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you all for coming. My name is Scott Okamoto, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, or DEI Committee of your San Francisco Association of Realtors. The purpose of this webinar is to take a deep dive into some of the data that we've gleaned from the DEI survey that we conducted way back in spring of 2021. We received a ton of data from that survey, and we're analyzing it, taking a deeper look at some of the numbers and rolling it out piece by piece. And this webinar will be the first that we offer. As Vanessa mentioned, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. Now, the survey, as you may recall, and hopefully you participated in, back in the spring of 2021, the SFAR sent out its first membership survey. It's surprising that no survey had been conducted before then, but it is what it is. So a total of 727 members participated, which works out to an 18% response rate. Not unanimous participation, but statistically significant nonetheless. But we had an ulterior motive for conducting the survey, and that was to gain information from a DEI perspective. We wanted to understand the diversity of composition and experiences of SFAR members and inform how SFAR creates spaces for conversations that impact our membership's diversity, equity, and inclusion. The first set of data we released concerned mainly demographics, but it also included information on career and personal finances for SFAR members. This deep dive will address income and housing affordability. In generating the following slides, we compared the SFAR survey data with numerous other data sources, including data from US Census, US Department of Housing and Urban Development, SF Planning Department, CAR, and SFAR. We crunched the numbers and we found them to be shocking and disturbing, or at least eye-opening and thought-provoking, and we think you will as well. Through the survey, we learned that nearly 90% of respondents practice real estate full-time, and that most, almost 70%, have been doing so for 11 years or more. But more than a third of respondents, 36%, make less than $100,000. 28% make between $100,000 and $200,000. 16% between $200,000 and $300,000. 14% $300,000 to $500,000, and 6% make more than $500,000. The median income, household income in San Francisco is $112,449. This means that more than a third of SFAR members make less than the median in San Francisco. 68% of our members are the primary income earners in their household. 77% own at least one property, and 42% own more than one property. But when you split this up into Black, Indigenous, or people of color, or BIPOC, versus white respondents, there is a severe disparity. 47% of BIPOC realtors make less than $100,000, whereas only 28% of white realtors make less than 100 grand. As you can see by this chart, the numbers are skewed to the lower end for BIPOC realtors, but more evenly distributed for white realtors. So with that background in mind, what does this mean for SFAR members in relation to the population at large? Well, the median income, household income in the San Francisco metro area, which also includes Marin and San Mateo counties, is $143,100. By this metric, BIPOC realtors are far below that standard. If you break out median household income by race or ethnicity in San Francisco, the data speaks for itself. For white households, median income is $146,043. Asians, $101,563. Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders, $90,917. Latino, $82,442. American Indian, Native Alaskan, $49,483. And for Black households, the median income is $38,862. Now, of course, this isn't to say that there aren't some impoverished white households or some wealthy Black households, but the median white household has an income almost 4 times that of the median Black household. But what are we comparing exactly? The foregoing doesn't account for family size. It just aggregates households, which could be 1 person, it could be 12. To compare apples to apples, we then looked at the average household size, which in San Francisco is 3.12 people. Median household income for a family of 3 in the San Francisco metro area is $115,300. This is slightly higher than the median household income in San Francisco proper, which was $112,449. But what does making $115,300 for a family of 3 in San Francisco actually mean? The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development sets standards for what constitutes low income, very low income, and extremely low income. For a family of 3 in the San Francisco metro area, low income is considered $131,750. Very low income is considered $82,250, and extremely low income is considered $49,350. So if you're making the median income of $115,300 for a family of 3 in San Francisco, you're not only considered by HUD standards to be low income, you're considered low income for a family of 2. Going back to this slide, what does all of this data mean in terms of the HUD guidelines? This means that the median income for all races and ethnicities other than white in San Francisco are considered to be low income. American Indian and Alaska Natives were considered very low income, and actually Latinos beat the very low income threshold by only $192. And the median Black household in San Francisco is considered extremely low income. But is this just semantics? We all know that San Francisco is expensive. HUD says I'm extremely or very low or low income, but what does that mean in real world terms? We first looked at it this way. A significant majority of households in San Francisco, 65%, are renters. The median rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in San Francisco is currently $3,995. Depending where you are outside of San Francisco, rent diminishes, and in the state of California, the median rent is $1,999, just under $2,000. A 2-bedroom apartment is used because that means 1 room for the parents and 1 room for the 1.12 other occupants. Based on the median household income and the median rent, we then calculated rent burden by race and ethnicity. If the median white household rented the median apartment on the market, that median white household would spend 33% of its median income on rent for that median apartment. Asian households would spend 47% of their income, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders 52%, Latinos 58%, American Indian, Alaska Natives 97%, and the median Black household would spend 120% of its income on rent. How is this possible? Well, it isn't. This ignores the effects of rent control and its ability to keep people in their homes. But if the median Black household, making the median of $38,862 annually in income, attempts to rent the median apartment, they can't. These are simply extrapolations of data. But the fact is that there are clear racial undertones to housing in San Francisco. What does this mean for realtors? Well, recall that 36% of realtors in San Francisco make less than $100,000. This means that 36% of realtors are paying at least 48% of their income towards rent. What should you be paying? Well, historically, there's a 30% rule, which says that you should spend 30% of your income on rent. But in San Francisco, that sort of flies out the window. As according to this chart, nobody can pay 30% of their income in rent. Well, what about home ownership? Again, roughly 2/3 of households in San Francisco are renters, which means that about 1/3 of households own homes. This is significantly less than across California, where 55% of households own their homes, and across the United States, where 64%, about 2/3 of people own their homes. But when we broke it down in terms of race and ethnicity, across the United States, 73% of white households own their homes, Asian, Hawaiian, Pacific Islanders, 58%, American Indian, Alaska Natives, 51%, Latino, 48%, and Black, 42%. So there's again a definite disparity at the national level between home ownership and race. But here's why the data at the national level isn't all that reflective of how things are in San Francisco. The median single-family home in San Francisco, according to SFAR's 2020 data, was $1,609,000. Of course, this will fluctuate, but the point isn't the actual number. It's comparing that number to California, where the median price is $659,380, $659,380, in the United States, which is $300,200. So what does the cost of a home in San Francisco mean for home buyers of different races and ethnicities? Well, using the 2836 DTI, or debt to income rule, which states that your mortgage shouldn't be more than 28% of your monthly gross income, or 36% of your total debt, and further presuming that you're putting down 20% and that you're getting a 30-year fixed at 5.27%, and rates have already gone up since we put this slide together. Then based on the median household incomes, the median white household can afford a home worth $559,165, Asians $388,861, Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders $348,100, Latinos $315,651, American Indians, Alaska Natives $189,842, and the median Black household can afford a home worth $148,794. Can anyone making the median income in San Francisco buy a home in San Francisco? No. Can anyone making the median income buy a home in California? No. Can anyone making the median income buy a home elsewhere in the United States? Yes, but whether they'd want to is a question beyond the scope of our survey. Now, the reality is that many people stretch beyond the 2836 rule in order to live in San Francisco. But the net result is that very few people can, in fact, afford a home in San Francisco, and the range of people that can is narrowing. So what conclusions can we draw from this data? Well, as a committee, we do not draw any express conclusions. The numbers speak for themselves. But what they say is shocking. Income disparity is real. Wealth distribution is a problem. The San Francisco real estate market is becoming the province of an elite few. Now, if this is an issue about which you feel passionate about addressing, or if you're just mildly interested in learning more about it, we welcome you to join or sit in on a meeting of our SFAR DEI committee and learn about how diversity, equity, and inclusion matter to realtors. That said, let me toss it back to Vanessa Gamp, who will address a couple of things that we as a committee are doing to address this. Vanessa.
Yeah, thanks, Scott, for going through all the numbers. I don't know about all of you on the call today, but I certainly thought I had an idea of what these numbers might look like before the data rolled in. But it was still a staggering surprise when some of the information came in. So it's always interesting to know when what you feel might be happening, just what you're seeing around you or what you know through maybe some peers or people in your everyday life, when you get to see the data brought in that says, yes, there is in fact a huge disparity between different ethnic groups in our city. So this, of course, is in housing, but it also translates to pretty much all parts of how we interact with each other through work, through colleagues. And so a big part of what we are trying to do at the DEI committee at SFAR is affect some changes whenever we can on things that we directly have control over, or things where we can jump in to facilitate and help. So certainly the answer to how to solve these problems is a huge question with many unanswerable portions, or many areas where there would have to be huge changes on an economic scale, a political scale. But for our realtor population, one of the questions we asked ourselves is, all right, if we have BIPOC agents who are interested in becoming realtors or interested in building their own real estate business, how are we able to help? And so one of the projects that we're working on that we're going to be rolling out later this year is going to be called Rise, where we are opening up applications for newer agents, so generally in their first couple of years of business, to apply to both get a grant to help with some of those startup costs in the beginning of your real estate career, as well as partnering with mentors who will help, in a group setting, teach some of the skills, whether it be, how to plan your own time, how to do your own personal budgeting, to things like marketing or business building skills to help, give people a leg up. A lot of times the BIPOC community is automatically starting at a disadvantage when they come in. So yes, we might all have our real estate license, but maybe we don't have connections. Maybe we don't have a support system. Maybe we don't have the luxury of someone else paying our bills while we get our footing building our own business. And so we wanted to directly help those who are interested in getting a start in San Francisco real estate, and do it in a way that also builds community around them. So we are super excited to introduce that and also be a part of it from a mentoring or a planning side as well. All right, so I know that was lots of numbers and lots of information. And we were wondering if any of you guys had questions about the data that we presented, or even if you just had any feelings that were coming up when you see some of those stark numbers. I think we can turn off the recording at this point so that we can have